Okay, Mehdi Saifi here from Saifi International Real Estate Team. I'm going to explain or go over what is a cap rate. Cap rate is usually relates to when a potential buyer is looking at a commercial property to purchase, and they want to figure out or calculate as what is left for them. Now, typically speaking, depending on the location, keep in mind that the better the neighborhood or the area is, the lower the cap rates are. If you drive, let's say 4 hours, 5 hours away from Toronto, you would get buildings with higher cap rates. It means more money in your hand. Now, the way we figure out cap rates is basically by calculating the net operating income and divide that by the purchase price or the market value, and the percentage that it gives you is what we call a cap rate. Obviously, we want to know what is left at the end of the day after you pay, again, what's called or referred to as operating expenses. That includes property taxes, maintenance, hydro, snow removal, landscaping, possible repairs like roof needs to be repaired, or part of the wall needs to be updated, or stuff like this. And management costs, once you add all those up, those are your operating expenses. And after that, what is left for you is what we call a cap rate. A reasonable expectation on a cap rate is between 3 to 5%. And again, that all depends on where the property is, whether you're dealing with one major tenant or multiple tenants in there. Some investors don't like to be involved with a single tenant, because if they, for whatever reason, if they decide to wrap up the operation or move to a new location, then the risk is very high. Mind you, if they are that big, usually even if they decide to move on to a new location, they keep paying their rent, because obviously they have a contract, they have an agreement, and they have to meet up. But it's not good for the building to be vacant. Now, when you look at multiple tenants, your risks are lower, and some other investors prefer to deal with smaller and multiple tenants. They feel more comfortable. If one leaves, their source of income is not cut off. The way we calculate the cap rate is basically by taking the net operating income, that's after all those expenses, the operating expenses that I explained, and you divide that by the purchase price or the market value, and the percentage that it gives you is what we call a cap rate. Now, exceptions. There have been many cases where even though the minimum expectation on a cap rate is around 3%, 4, 5%, I personally have sold commercial properties that the cap rate was only 1%, even a little lower, 9 point something percent. And typically, someone in their right mind, they wouldn't even touch that, because like 1%, come on, what are we doing here? But what we took into consideration was the up potential of that building. We looked at the leases. We realized that the leases are 20, 25 years old, and these people have been sitting there for many years. They're paying like $750 a month for a 2-bedroom apartment, high ceilings, reasonably speaking, condition. Downtown Toronto, they're paying $750 a month. You could easily, by touching up here and there, doing some updating, kitchen cabinet, toilets, floors, stuff like that, you can probably charge between $2,000 to $2,500 rent for units like that. And imagine if you had 8 or 9 of them, what a huge income potential it is there. So yes, I bought that for one of my clients, and they converted that place from a 1% return or cap rate to a 9% cap rate by basically working out a deal with the tenants, and they all moved out. They modified and updated, renovated the building, not by a lot. Like I said, just put new kitchen cabinets, redo the hardwood floors, and put new toilet and sinks and whatever. And they suddenly almost increased the rent three times more than what it was. There's actually a building on Cumberland that it is a restaurant, is a very famous restaurant. If I mention the name, most of you know where that is. And in Toronto Film Festival, a lot of Hollywood stars go there for lunch, dinners, etc. The guy who bought this in the 70s, he was talking to me and he said he bought that building with 1% return. And everybody there, they were laughing at him. They said, this crazy guy, new in the country, he doesn't know his left from his right. He went and bought a property with 1% return. Well, this man, he passed away a few years ago, God bless his soul, had no formal education, but incredibly smart when he came to business and finances. He knew something that probably most MBAs don't know. He bought the place and he cleaned up basically the Yorkville area from a place that where a lot of hippies hang around in there. It made it to a very trendy street, and about maybe 25 years ago, I took an offer for him, and my offer was $11.5 million for one single building, not too big, probably 25-30 feet of frontage by 100 feet deep, and he had only paid $900,000 for it. He laughed at me. He goes, "Are you kidding me? I'm getting $65,000 a month rent from this place. Why would I sell it for $11 million?" Now, you see, what he did, he bought the potential of that building. He paid for the future potential of that building, and he was 100% right by doing that. So, therefore, my point is, sometimes we can go forward with buildings that have a very low cap rate. Now, let me give you another example. I'm dealing with a plaza right now that is in a fantastic location, and about 2.2 acres, and potential for future development is a lot. The current income on that is 1.2 million. So by the time you take the operating expenses out of that, it is it will leave you with around $650,000 net income. Now, when you put that on a cap rate formula, that only gives you about 2.5% return. Typically, is not worth it, and an investor shouldn't be coming and looking at paying like $30 million for a property that only has 2.5% return. But the reason the owners are asking what they're asking is simply because this property has the potential to build 2 mid-rises, about 50 townhouses, retail stores. So that's how it justifies, and it sort of makes it an attractive deal when you look at the potential as what you can do with it in the future. Going back to the cap rate being explained, basically you need to get enough money out of there, out of a building, that it justifies and it puts you in a better situation or condition than if you had your money parked in the bank. Now, if you have $10 million, pardon me, I should have turned my phone off, but sometimes I overlook that. So it's going to put you in a better condition as if you had your money in the bank. When you have your money in the bank, like how much you're going to gain out of that? Practically nothing. By the time you go through your year, and when you look at how much you made on your $10 million, it's ridiculous, right? But when you're buying a real estate investment that has an income, potential for the value of your building that you have purchased to go up, your tenants are paying down your mortgage. So it is a win-win-win situation. So therefore, it makes sense to put your excess money into a real estate investment. But make sure that you do a proper due diligence. Make sure that you check your leases. Make sure as how many years they have left on that. If they are solid tenants, if they're national tenants, they're all added values to. If you have, let's say, McDonald's in your plaza, let's say if you have one of the major banks in there, those are all advantages, those are all pluses that it makes your property that you're looking at purchase more valuable. Okay, so make sure you do your due diligence, make sure that there are no month-to-month leases. Sometimes they do that, and when they do that, let me explain. The owners, they have already are working on the future potential of the building for redevelopment. So when the leases are up, the new renewal will be month to month or with 3 to 6 months advance notice. They have to leave the building, what they call a demolition clause. It means that Mr. Tenant, we have decided to bring the building down. We give you 6 months to find yourself a new place, and you got to move on. So this is why I say you need a very experienced agent that can do the proper due diligence for you, analyze the numbers, and to see if this is a good investment or not. So on that comment, remember, a mind at peace is a mind at work. And please hit on the like button and check out my YouTube channel, Mehdi Seifi, or alternatively my website as it is www.seifi.com. That's SAYFFI.com.